Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Building an Iconic Life. And I've been in the back room with my guest, Kevin Blue. This is a gentleman that's had a lot of experience in life, and I can't wait to share with you this episode. Stay tuned.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to Build an Iconic Life podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whitehead. And this podcast is dedicated to help you build a life with zero regrets by focusing on how you have everything you need to stand up, stand out, and live life on your terms. Let's dive right in. Hey, Kevin, thanks for showing up today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So, we were sitting in the back. We were starting to get into some meaty conversations, and I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to end up not recording this podcast, and I'm going to end up talking to you for an hour. And I was like, let's just stop and let's just rock and roll and have a good conversation. But I think the way I want to start this, and it's a little bit of a heavy-hitting question, but I think it's important for people that are, willing to invest their time to listen. Who is Kevin Blue today?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I've been living in this earthly tent my whole life, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I could tell you that I was born to a loving mother and father who cared for me, both depression parents, and I had everything I needed, but I may not have had everything I want because I was selfish and self-centered. My wife bought me this little phone case, so it's a take
Mine.
mine. And I was the youngest of four. Well, the youngest of five. My mom had a miscarriage in between, and I was taken care of. I had all my, needs. My parents saw early that I wasn't very athletic, but I was musical, so they bought me instruments, rented me instruments, paid for the information to learn. We didn't have YouTube back then, so we had to take lessons or try to figure it out. My first instrument was a Magnus chord organ that my mom had gotten from thrifty drugstore that she worked at as a little organ, not too big. And she gave me a book and I figured out songs on it. And that gave me kind of a foundation for thinking, I can do this. Cause I was the type of guy that if I started something and I didn't excel immediately, I would just push it away. And music was one thing that I was able to kind of learn and do and excel on. And so I went with that. I lived at my parents' house for the first 35 years of my life. And the only reason that changed is because my father had passed away. Drug addiction in the middle of my life for 25 years until I got sober at 36. So now I'm 58, married. I got a bunch of kids. We got a bunch of grandkids. Life's a lot better than I ever imagined it because I was, when I growing up in that perfect environment where I was loved and I was taken care of and I was fed and I was given things I needed, I somehow grew to become a victim of nobody liked me or nobody liked me as much as you. Or I like to say my mom loved my brother best and I was last picked to kickball, some of those kind of silly things. But as I got older, I realized that was all a lie. And I was a perpetrator of all those lies. I was the one that would put those roadblocks and hurdles in front of me to tell me I couldn't do this or you didn't like me. And I don't do that anymore. Sobriety has really helped me out because when I got into sobriety, coming up on 22 years, it got me to look at the causes and conditions of why I was there. And I stopped pointing the finger at everybody else and started pointing the finger at me. The reason why I drank is because I wanted to get drunk. The reason why I did drugs is because I wanted to get high. The reason why I stole stuff is because I wanted to steal. And I didn't have the mentality to comprehend anything. I had great jobs growing up in life, union jobs, and out of parcel service, ironworkers union, but I would screw those all off because they wanted me to work. There's like a condition to get the paycheck. I like the ironworkers union because they took money out of your check, and then every 3 months or 4 months they would give you a check. Because that job you weren't working a consistent 12 months a year, so you'd always have these checks. Once I started getting those, I thought, man, this is great. I'm getting paid. I thought I was getting paid for doing nothing, and really what it was they were doing me a favor and holding on to stuff I made. I didn't even realize they were taking money out of my paycheck. That's how little I knew. And that's kind of the way I lived my life. I'd gotten in a lot of trouble in and out of jail on my way to prison, and a bunch of felonies. And when I had gotten sober, they told me we had to get a job, and that was kind of like a job, you know. So I had to get a job, and I had to pay my own ways. They got a term called you had to be self-supporting through your own contributions. So I had to learn how to do that, and they told me that I had to be honest. Now, when you come into AA or any kind of A, whatever your maladjustment to life is, we're liars, we're cheats, and we're thieves because that's the easiest way to get what we want. My parents loved me, but they didn't have, you know, I wasn't a trust fund kid or anything like that. So I had to figure out ways to get what I needed to get. And so I lied, I stole, I cheated. And when I got into the rooms of recovery, they told me that I had to be honest. So out looking for jobs, I couldn't get jobs. You know, nobody wanted to hire me because I was being too honest. Do you have any felonies? Yes. Have you, you have any prior to this? Yes, yes, yes. So Walmart told me I wasn't welcome, you know, Target, all the other places. And in a way that was the best thing for me because I was forced to start this life of being honest and supporting myself through my own contributions. I was forced to start my own business because I got hired carpet cleaners. They'll hire anybody at carpet cleaners. I used to do that when I was 18. Through carpet cleaning, I get introduced to air duct cleaning, and I found a niche. It was something that I liked, so I excelled at it quickly. I learned, you know, everything there was to know and then more. And now I pride myself on telling people that I am the champion in my industry. And that's because it was something I liked. And I started my own business, and it was rough. It was rough. The first 5 or 6 years was cool, but then 2007 came around, and, you know, nothing.
Yes, I do.
Remember that 2007, I lost my
I
house,
do.
lost my cars. I'd evicted from where I lived. I've moved everything to storage. I lost that because I couldn't pay my bills. So there was a time about 2009 when I had absolutely nothing. Everything I had was gone. And it was the most freeing time of my life. I felt like I'd been reborn. I felt like a phoenix, you know, emerging from the ashes. I was still here and I'm still surviving. So it taught me lessons. So here we are in 2022, and I'm kind of going through the same thing financially, but it's a way different thing. I didn't lose a house. I didn't lose the cars because I've learned lessons on how to manage what I've been given, because I like to rely on the Bible, and there's a kind of a thing in there where he says, he talks about trusting you with a little before he can trust you with a lot.
Yep.
So recap on who I am. I am a man of God. I am a loving husband. I am a father of a bunch of kids. 2 of them, they're biological, and another 6 that call me dad. I have 9 grandkids. I have a couple classic cars. I have work van. I have another van. I have 3 different businesses that I'm running. I feel like the guy in the vaudeville thing where they're spinning the plate, you know, and I
Yeah.
got a plate spinning, and it's just a trip. And then the cool thing is on the outside, when people see who I am today, they have a different illusion. They elevate who they think I am versus when I was in my drug addiction, they would suppress who. They'd look at me and they'd walk across the street, or they'd throw me money because they didn't want anything to do with me. And my goal today is the man I am and the man I want to be will cross paths. My fear today is the man I am and the man I was will cross paths. So there's kind of a different way I can go. You know, I can go back to doing drugs and acting a fool. And this is the first year that I'm going to be able to go see. I'm in LA, so I'm a Dodger fan, so I'm going to go see the Dodgers play. We've got tickets all the way up to the World Series. Those were things I never thought would happen. But it's amazing when you stop being the instigator of your own misery, how you can actually manufacture things of quality.
You know, it leads to a really good question. At least I'm curious, and I would imagine the audience is too. What was that breaking point? What was that point where the straw broke the camel's back and you were faced to look at Kevin?
Okay, so November 29th, 1999, my father had passed. And when I was 11, my father had gotten sick to the point where they told me he had 6 months to live. And so I created a bond with him at 11 years old, kind of like where Bruce Lee's son, Brandon, said once, how many more sunsets do I get to watch? We don't know. And so I didn't know how many more sunsets or sunrises I'd be able to see with this man. So I cherished everything in a selfish way where I didn't have that same attitude with everybody. But when he passed on November 29th, 1999, he was what we call in the rooms of recovery. He was probably one of my last good hostages. You know, he loved me, cared for me, he knew I had a problem. He helped me out when he could. He would do things for me. And it just started a spiral to where I was consuming as much as I could to make me feel different. And somebody said, when you're done with that bottle, is your dad going to be alive? And no. When you're done with that pipe, is your dad going to be alive? No. And I got to a point, September 29th, 2000, I was over at somebody's house, and we were doing what we do. And methamphetamines was my drug of choice at the end. And we were getting some, and I walked outside to my car to get things we needed to break up what we got. And I'm faced with the Huntington Beach task force, and there's 7 of them in front of me. And I got arrested again. And this time I'm on my way to prison, and I spent a good 30 days in jail. In that time that it was just kind of a moment of clarity, because they let me out. Then they came back and rearrested me, and I hadn't been able to get high or loaded or drunk or anything. So I this time I went to jail sober. When I say sober, I was physically sober, because there's like there's a physical obsession of the body, and then there's a mental obsession. So you could be physically detoxed. I've picking friends up from the county jail or from prison, and they haven't had anything. And as soon as I pick them up, they've got that obsession of the mind that tells them they want it. So I was physically sober. They came back. It was December 7th, 2000. That was my 37th birthday. And the judge looked at me and said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to let you go. And he gave me a bunch of stipulations. But in that time, I had made a conscious contact that I wasn't going to do it again, because when I first got arrested, I was going to go to prison, stay clean, and come out and then drink and use like a gentleman. And I didn't realize at the time, you can't do that. You know, it's like touching a hot stove. You can't tell your skin it's not going to burn if you touch it. And that's where I was with my addiction. So on December 7th, when I got out, I had, when I say I was going to pretend like I was sober, I had a week in a recovery house before they came and picked me up. And I heard a couple things. And what's so important then was the director said, look to your left, look to your right. Somebody's not going to be here in a year. I looked to my left. There's Michelle. Michelle had 60 days sobriety. I looked to my right. There's a woman named Maureen. She had 30 days sobriety. I looked at myself, and I'm like, I'm going to be here. Well, within a year, Michelle died with a needle in her neck. And today, Maureen's taken 22 years of sobriety. So the two of us together stayed sober. We weren't best friends that time, but we stayed in contact, and things like that. But I go back to jail with that little bit of seed, kind of like the parable of the sower, where the seed, where did that seed fall? Did it fall on the hard ground? Did it fall between the rocks, or did it fall into fertile soil? And for me, it fell into fertile soil. So when I got out, December 7th, 2000, now, I don't know if anybody who's listening has ever been to jail, but usually in Orange County, when you go to jail, they let you out at 2 a.m., maybe 1:30, just enough time to get to the liquor store. They let me out at 6:30. I got a ride home, and then I called recovery house, and I was scared because I was at the house where my addiction was active. I felt like when I went into my mom's house, that's where I did all my craziness, just like you were telling me the story about living in the basement.
Yep.
So I called the recovery house. They told me they wouldn't have a bed till Monday, and they hung up on me. And I called them back and said, look, I'm scared, and I don't think I can make it till Monday. And they said, well, you got 20 minutes to get here. And I was like, I don't care where. I'll sleep under your car. I'll sleep next to you. I'll sleep on the couch. I just can't be here. So that's where that started. I had that threadbare ideal that I can do this. I had a threadbare ideal that what I was doing wasn't working, and what little bit I saw in the rooms of recovery, because here's some guys, like when you got to the recovery house, they gave you a plate, a knife, a fork, a spoon, and a bowl, and a coffee cup, and a drinking cup. And somebody had went through and took in the bottom of the cups and all this stuff. And in nail polish, they wrote like a number on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 12 beds. So they had it numbered 1 through 12. So I was number 3. And I was responsible for everything that had a 3 on it. And if they came in and anything in the sink was dirty and it had my number on it, then I would be in trouble, and I'd have consequences. My bed had to be made, and I had curfew. They let me know real clear. You don't live here. You're a bed renter. You're allowed to be here from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. We lock the doors at 7 a.m. and you can't come back until 6:30 or 7. And then you could do your stuff. It was just very simple. You're only a bed renter. You're not here to watch TV. I'm like, you guys got cable? And they're like, no, we don't even have a TV. So I started learning little tiny baby steps on what I should have learned when we were in kindergarten, and they had a thing called the golden rule. And over time, I've expanded on that. I get up, I try to make my bed. I hate doing dishes, but I do dishes because my wife says that's foreplay, and it really, really works. So, I'll purposely get them all clean, and then when she gets home, because we have this app called Live 360, I'll wait till she comes in. I'll be washing like the last one. It's like I'm like Magic Mike in her eyes.
Amen.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
No, you very much answered my question. And one of the things that popped into my head, I definitely know that Tony Robbins has said it. I don't know the originator of it, but it says we often overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and we underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. And I listen to the man that you were, lost, no skill sets, in survival mode, in desperation mode. And in less than 20 years, bro, you've gone to, and you're not doing it perfectly, you're being real, but you've gone from being completely alone, thinking that you're unworthy, to having the woman of your dreams. Did you say 7 children? 2 biological
there's 8.
8 children, 19 grandchildren. 9 grandchildren, 9. Apologize. Running 3 companies. And the man that was, you're aware that you're one step away from being that man, so you stay diligent. For 20 years, you've just been diligent because you said enough was enough. And we all learn our lessons in different ways. Sometimes prison and jail is something that is devastating to people because it's not necessarily a nice place. And then some people decide, I want to learn my lessons and I'm ready to move forward. And so that to me is iconic. You took however the lesson came and said, I'm going to use this to make me a better person. What it leads me to want to ask next, and we're just going to be here for a few more minutes, but what's the dream and the desire that's on your heart that you're in the process of pursuing right now?
It's kind of a tough question because honestly, a lot of my dreams have come true, and only because I sold myself short. I didn't know how to dream big enough. I love music. Music has been a great escape, and I didn't realize that the music I was listening to was giving me fingerprints on where I should go, or actually, GPS on where I should go. The Eagles say that we live our life in chains, and we never knew we had the keys. Once I figured out I had the keys, then I was able to free myself. My dreams today are to have a business that runs on autopilot or clockwork. Right now, I'm wearing too many darn hats. Hi, this is HB Air Deck. Knocking on the door. I've learned a lot over the years. I wear a nice uniform. I have a really impressive business card. I have a digital business card on the back of my phone so they can scan it. So my dream is to be on autopilot. My dream is to be like kids taken care of and things like that. I want to leave a legacy. The Bible says that a righteous man will leave his children's children an inheritance. And he's not talking about money. So in that respect, I'm trying to leave my children's the knowledge that the Bible is the inherent word of God. And so my dreams today is to be that foundation. My daughter-in-law just celebrated 9 years of sobriety today. And she says she owes it to me. And all I did was I was an example, so I want to be a good example. I might be the only Bible that you see. I might be the only iconic person that you might recognize. I might be the only guy from, that came from the gutter. A couple of years ago, I got a letter from the 45th president of the United States stating about my sobriety and how proud he was and what a help I am. And so I like to say I came from the recovery house to the White House with my message. So my goal is be more iconic. I'm in the process of writing a book because when I was a kid, so that's one of my dreams is to get the book. It's called, I already got the title. It's called From Behind the Piano. And I can tell you where that came from. When I was a kid, my kindergarten teacher would punish me because Kevin's report cards and his progress reports, I always thought the teachers just like looked at last year's and just wrote the same. Kevin that can't keep his hands to himself. Kevin's distracted. Kevin's not paying attention. Kevin's not living to his potential. So Mrs. Smith in kindergarten would put me behind the piano. And that might be my first love for music because when she was playing, I would see the strings move in a certain pattern. And then I was learning to mute the strings before she hit them. So she would go da 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 da. And she was just always mad at me. So my wife likes to say when I throw my little hissy fits, which I still do, she says, get from behind the piano, get out from behind the piano. So that's where I'm starting is to, I'm seeing so many people write books. I know I've got a message when I go to a meeting or when I go to any kind of conference, I look around and I think, what a library we have here.
Whew.
You know, your book's amazing, you know,
Thanks.
about being iconic. And that's what I want to be. And you told me once, if you want to be iconic, if you want to be an icon, you got to do iconic things. So from that day on, I'm like, am I being iconic? And there's times when people have called and, you know, customers try to take advantage of me. And sometimes it's just easier just to give them the money and leave, give them the service and leave. And just, I go to bed and I sleep good. My goals are to be on autopilot with my business. My goals are to be ever present with my wife and family and kids and never neglect them, because I used to be the workaholic where I'd come to work and I didn't have times. And wife and I used to have date nights. It was a Sean Whalen book, How to Make Shit Happen.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we have 2 date nights a week, you know, and then pillow talk. You don't know what pillow talk is.
Yep.
And that's, you know, I want to be the best Kevin I can be. I had a stroke 3 years ago and God told me at that time that I'm on assignment. He told me to get busy living or come on home. And I chose to stay here in this earthly realm when most people of my faith would like to be home in paradise, you know, walking on streets of gold. He gave me a second chance. And I'm lucky I'm not wearing a diaper. I'm able to walk and talk. I stutter a little bit. I have my left side is the side that got hit. So if you look, you know, you can see a smaller arm, a smaller leg. I drop stuff now and then. Today I'm on assignment. I want to stay on assignment. I just became a deacon at my church. I'm able to marry and bury. And you're talking about a guy that wasn't allowed to come to weddings. You were talking about to a guy who was told, don't come to the funeral, embarrass my family. Do not come to the wedding to make a scene. You know, I'd be the type of guy that would bring a card and stick it on a gift. And that would be it. You know, hey, from Kevin, right? Sometimes I didn't remember to take the other card off, but that's the type of guy I was. And today I get to preach the gospel of the God that saved me. And I found that God through AA.
Dude, I think it's an absolutely beautiful testimony that you just gave all of us. And I'm really, really glad that I've had you on the show because this is iconic. You're encouraging other people that they can too.
Most
And
definitely.
I appreciate you about that.
Yeah, most definitely. I like to use analogies when I speak because it makes me feel I get through to people. So we know about the scales of justice, right? We see them in our courthouses and stuff. So when I identify in rooms of AA, I say my name is Kevin Blue. That's my last name. And a lot of people use just initial Kevin B or Kevin. My name's Kevin Blue and I'm a grateful alcoholic because I used to be going to town and people go, there's that fucking Kevin Blue. And, you know, and they had no, if something was lost or stolen, I probably had something to do with it. So a lot of people who even called me friends didn't want me around. It wasn't like, dude, I'm going to go stay here, make yourself home. Well, that wasn't an option. But I used to get these like, you're this, you're that. And I earned all that. I'm not trying to, you know, pull out the victim card, but that scales of justice, all those bad things were weighing down. Right. And then as I gotten sober and started doing good things, the attaboys started coming up. So my scales were lifted. And now today, when I walk down the street, if I hear somebody say, hey, you know, hey, a-hole, I don't have to turn around because the chances are they're not looking at me. And, you know, doing funerals for people. A lot of my friends are dying because of fentanyl. A lot of my friends are dying because of drug abuse and things. And I'm the one that's like, hey, bro, can you share a message? I just did one for my best friend's mom. I met the mom once or twice, but it's different when you don't really know the person. You got to ask questions. I like to do a thing. If I'm doing your funeral, I find out when you were born. I found out where you were born. I found out, and I ask where you died and when you died. And then I look up the song for the day you were born. Okay. And then I look for the song that for the day you died, and you'd be surprised at how those commingle,
No, I'm not surprised at all, bro.
Yeah. It's like I run under this premise that God of the universe with the capital G is the one that's calling the shots. And if other people don't believe that, I'm good with that, because there's a time when I couldn't believe in a God, because I'm like, how could somebody that you call God treat me so bad? But you got to remember, I was speaking victimese. It was all about me.
Yeah.
So now I'm serving this God, being in need of this God, because there's a Bible verse that I learned early in my walk. I was probably 15. And it's Isaiah 48. It tells me the grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of God stands forever. And that was the first Bible verse I mentioned that I memorized. And it's been a part of my staple for a good 40 years, even through the dark times, when I would doubt how a God could be mean to me. I would hear a Charlton Heston voice coming to my head saying, the grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of God stands forever. And that was kind of my battle cry. Now I have new favorite verses, like Luke 19:10 tells me, for the Son of Man came to seek and save which was lost. I was lost my whole life. So it was up to me, because people said I found God. No, God, we're talking about the guy that knitted you in your mother's womb. God was never lost, but God gives us free will. Do you ever watch a show with Jim Carrey called Bruce Almighty?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, so there's a scene where he wants to be God. So Morgan Freeman lets him be God, but it's only of a small little block. And he's trying to get people to do stuff. And he says, no, you have to give them free will. And that was my thing. God gave me free will to think, and it's up to me to make that free will work. The definition in my book of knowledge is the application of wisdom. So I had all this Bible knowledge that I wasn't applying on a daily basis. I had all this AA knowledge that I wasn't applying on a daily basis. I have all this work ethic knowledge that I was applying. I work for a man named Ross Martinez, and he showed me so much stuff that I still use today. If I make an appointment and I'm going to be at the Whitehead House at 8:30 to 9, I'm knocking on your door at 8:29, clean, shiny, with a business card. And then when I leave your house, I go out around the corner and I clean myself up with the wipes and stuff and get the sweat off, take my shirt off, put a new shirt, make sure I'm clean, and I knock on the next house. And if it's a 10 to 11, I'm knocking on their door at 9:59. If I'm going to be late, I call or text them and tell them, hey, running a little behind. And my clients love that. Most of my reviews are how punctual I was. And I was the guy, yeah, I'll be at your house when, I don't know. So
Amen. And that's what I believe we're all here to do, is to help everybody succeed quicker. And mainly it's by being authentic and vulnerable enough to share the things that didn't work, so that we can help other people that are in that spot realize that we were too, and that we have found a way out of it. If it makes sense, follow along.
If anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm starting my own podcast called The Ripple Effect. The Ripple Effect is where we have influences on people's life. I want to tell you quickly, Chris and we've met in a different circle. Okay. And I started that circle on May 4th of 2021. And you were one of the first people that I had, we had shiny object syndrome, and I liked what you had, and we connected, and we've been friends ever since. And you invited me to a cigar thing you had last year that was just amazing. Every one of the guys, everything that you bring to the table, you remind me of the banquet that we're promised in the Bible when we pass. Everything's going to be good and healthy and tasty and fulfilling and nutrient. And that's what Chris brings to the table. He don't bring no crap.
I appreciate
you, man. You bring things and you help. You're a helper in your own way. You're preaching the gospel of how to be iconic, which is cool. And people don't know this or see this, but the Bible runs through you. The DNA of the gospel runs through you, and the DNA of being the good Samaritan. You're the guy. If you see somebody beat up on the side of the road, I bet you're one of the first people that's going to pull over and help that guy out and throw him a couple of denaries and say, here, take care of him until I get back. And that's what we're trying to be, because I used to be that guy on the side of the road, beat up and hurt, and people would just step over
Me
me.
too, bro. Me
Yeah,
too. That's why I do it. I don't ever want to forget. I don't want to ever forget where I came from, and the best way not to forget. And I think the only way that a man can look down at another man is to help him up.
Exactly.
And I've been helped by many, many people, and a lot of those people probably don't even know they were doing it. And that was God showing up through them to help me. And I just decided to take the hand. And I believe that our goal here is to leave legacy, like you said. And part of my legacy is through everyone that I contact to let them know what unconditional love feels like, not conditional. And that was the thing that I was striving to understand in my own life for so long. And now that I have it, and I'm challenged just like everybody else is, I get to practice the thing that I want to most see in the world. And then we're just going to continue doing that, man. And I tell you, Kevin, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you showing up on the show. And we'll put your contact information for people to get in touch with you.
Okay.
And it's just been a real blessing, man, talking to you today. Really has. Thank you.
I like what you said about God being in everything. There's times when I see people on the street that are down and out, and I look in their eyes and I see myself, and I get to share my story. I say, you may not believe this, but I was where you were this many years ago. So, be the best you could be. In AA, they tell us that don't forget where you came from. That's why I go to morning meetings. It's the same place I went 22 years ago. So when I look at that dirty sidewalk and I see the people shuffling, and the names and faces might change, but the stories are still the same. And there's a lot of people that are coming in and they're hurting, and they're I can't do this. And one guy was sharing the other day how you don't trust anybody. And I said, well, why? And he's like, why? And he wanted to beat me up. I said, do you trust yourself? And he's like, pause. First time the guy shut up the whole meeting, pause. He goes, what are you trying to say? And I go, I was exactly where you were. I couldn't trust anybody because I didn't trust myself. So let's work on you. There's a quote from a blues song by Robert Lucas that says, how can you love me? How can I love you, baby, if I don't love myself? And that was a thing where I had to learn to love Kevin. And that was tough, man.
Well, that's why we're all banding together, because I believe we can accomplish so much more together than we can alone. And our job is not to open the door for people. Our job is to point to the door and be there when they ask for the help. And you're on the same mission, bro. And that's exactly why I had you on this show. I want people to understand that, yes, we're here to make money, to do what we do, and to use marketing and all the different things. But the number one thing that I want people to remember is alignment is greater than assignment. And that means when you understand who you are, when you understand your core values, and you start aligning with other people of similar core values, it's an exponential effect on everything you want to accomplish in life. And you've been a representation of that today. Everybody, thank you for tuning into our show. Kevin, thank you for being here. And we'll see you next time on Building an Iconic Life. Take care, everybody.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to catch future casts. If you really enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it so others can benefit from it as well. I'll see you in the trenches.